Good evening and welcome to the Boise City Hearing Examiner public hearing. A few things to start out with for tonight's proceedings. Everyone from the public entering the hearing virtually has been automatically muted and cannot speak. As the item you're interested in comes up for discussion, you will be called upon and unmuted. There is a chat function in Zoom. This is not part of the record and should only be used if technical difficulties arise. Our procedures for public hearings begin with a presentation from the planning team. Then we'll go to the appellant and/or applicant, and then the representative of the Registered Neighborhood Association, followed by questions from the hearing examiner. After that, we proceed to the public testimony, starting with those who are in person, then folks who signed up from the sign-in sheet in advance, and then anyone else who raises their hand virtually. If you're attending through the telephone, you can type in *9 to raise your hand. Each speaker should state their name and address for the record. Each member of the public is allowed up to 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. Finally, the applicant or appellant is allowed time for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the hearing examiner will deliberate and render a decision. Ms. Canning, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call this meeting to order. For the record, I am an independent decision maker hired by the City of Boise and approved by the City Council. I make decisions on variances and administrative appeals. Any request to reconsider these decisions must be formally requested in writing pursuant to City Code. We only use the consent agenda to adopt findings related to previous decisions. All items that are placed in the consent agenda are approved without further public comment. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a full public hearing in the order just detailed a few minutes ago with staff. Thank you all for attending tonight. For the record, I, Anna Canning, will be the hearing examiner rendering decisions tonight. So the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And on that, we have the meeting minutes from March 27th, 2024. At this time, I would like to accept those minutes for the record. All right, moving on to new business. And before us is item CAA 23-00074, located at 1606 South Chrisway Drive. This is an appeal of a condition associated with the planning director's decision to approve an accessory dwelling unit located on 0.29 acres in an R2 residential compact zone. And with that, I will hand it off to Mr. Kowalczyk.
Okay. We good? Okay. Good evening, Ms. Canning. The case before you is an appeal of a condition of approval for CAA 2374. This administrative case is for an accessory dwelling unit to be built within an R2 zone at 1606 Chrisway Drive. The site plan submitted with the application proposes an 896 square foot ADU that will be accessed by a second driveway to be built on the property and have 2 parking spaces available to tenants for their use. As part of the condition of approval, a condition was added that states all off-street parking on the subject property shall be accessed from the existing driveway from Chrisway Drive. The appellant's grounds of appeal are summarized on this slide with a detailed analysis in your project report. The appellant's memorandum claims that the lack of on-street parking on Chrisway justifies the need for safe and secure long-term parking that the design of the driveway allows for. While the appellant contends that the proposed second access would be consolidated within the property to the north, no submitted materials reflect this. The property in question has a separate access point and remains separated by a landscape buffer. The appellant references the bolded code section on screen, which states that any consolidation shall occur between abutting properties to the maximum extent practicable. While this code section specifically references abutting parcels, sections throughout the code support the reduction of vehicular access points on public right-of-ways and other infrastructure. I have listed some of those on screen as well. Through the establishment of the modern zoning code, the city and community have continued to be committed to this goal. Evidence of this is included in removing the required parking spaces for ADUs and reducing the overall number of parking spaces for the single-family residences to 1. The intent of the modern zoning code is clearly demonstrated as consolidating access points to the maximum extent possible. Additional site alternatives were discussed with the applicant, including extending the driveway to the rear yard area to provide parking for the ADU. It is also important to note that ADUs do not require on-site parking in the code, and the additional parking spaces are exceeding the requirement for the property. Widening the driveway was also an option, as the current driveway is under the maximum width of 30 feet and could be widened to accommodate the additional parking space. These additional alternative plans would have better aligned the property with the comprehensive plan's goals for environmental stewardship, as an existing tree would have been retained as well. The added driveway also does not conform with the stated goal CC 7.2B for enhancing pedestrian connectivity and comfort by reducing conflicts with vehicles, as it introduces another conflict point between the pedestrians and vehicles. Staff decision to recommend the condition of approval shall be upheld. Additionally, there are multiple alternative modes of transportation which are readily available in this area and promote climate action goals of the city and to reduce carbon emissions. 3 bus routes and 4 bus stops are located within 1/4 mile of the property, providing access to the rest of the city. In addition, Chrisway Drive is a corridor for pedestrian and bike traffic for access to the university campus area, Greenbelt Pathway, and the downtown core, which is just over a mile from the site. In conclusion, the planning team recommends denial of the appeal and uphold all conditions of approval for CAA 2374. Also included on this slide are the standards of review for appeals for your reference. And I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kowalczyk. I don't have any questions at this time. So next, we will hear from the appellant. I believe that's Mr. Tom Baker. Why don't you please state your name and address for the record?
Tom Baker, 1606 Chrisway, South Chrisway Drive, Boise. I'm appealing this because the proposed driveway is consolidated with the neighbor's driveway according to code. Code says that we should that street access points between abutting parcels shall be consolidated and shared to the maximum extent practical. I consolidate it with the neighbor 100%, but I can't because the code tells me that I need a setback for a planting border of 5 feet. The proposed driveway design has been consolidated with the abutting parcels at 15 and therefore poses no additional pedestrian conflicts because there already is a driveway at the abutting parcel. So I'm not adding any pedestrian conflicts with this driveway. The new driveway requires no curb cutouts, which is consistent with goal CC 7.2 as supported by Ada County Highway District, which stated that it has a rollover driveway or curb, which can be used, and the driveway is to be abutted up to the existing sidewalk, so no cutouts need to be done. His argument with regards to the bus lines and public transportation, I don't really understand what that has to do with the driveway. This is student housing. People do have cars, and they need to be parked. Unfortunately, the city of Boise has prohibited parking in front of the residence at 1606 Crisway Drive. So I don't have any curbside parking, which is actually a plus for the driveway, because I'm not taking away any curbside parking from South Crisway Drive. Any cars coming out of the property at 1606 South Crisway on the new proposed driveway would be heading out forward instead of reversed, which gives clear view of any pedestrians, which goes back to your goal CC 7.2B, which states don't prohibit pedestrian access. The proposed design that the planning department has come up with to park cars on the right-hand side of the property, I would need a variance because I don't have the setback on the right-hand side to get a driveway through there. That's why we propose to put this driveway in on the second side. Originally, when this project first came to light, the old code before the modern zoning came out, called for 4 parking places to do this project, 2 for the front residence and 2 for the ADU, proposed ADU in the rear. And that's the way this project was designed, and it's a good design. It accommodates the parking. Now, for some reason under modern zoning, other than the green requirements, you guys have reduced parking to 1. And I don't know how familiar you are with the Crisway Drive neighborhood area, College Park, I guess, subdivision. But people are parking on the lawns. They're parking, blocking access to driveways. There is an incredible parking problem. And to reduce the parking from 4 required down to 1 is an oversight by the planning department that is very poor for the neighborhood around the college. I would hope that you would be aware of that situation. Further, the design that the planning department is proposing would park cars on the right-hand side in the rear of the property. If you look at the site map, the design of the plan leaves that area back as green area for the primary residence. If you park cars there, the primary residence, the green area will be affected. It'll be a parking lot back there. So I think that based on what I was approved for, my appeal, my project complies with the code sections that were referenced in the approval.
Is that the end of your testimony, Mr. Baker?
It is.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. And we're gonna leave you now and see if there's anybody else that's online to speak, and then I'll come back to you and ask you a few questions. So is there anyone representing the neighborhood association? Great. If you could come up and stand at the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is James Hackett, 1615 Juanita. I have the property adjacent, Mr. Baker.
Oh, so you are not, I'm sorry, you're not representing the neighborhood association, your neighbor? That's fine. So I just needed to say that for the record, because the next people we would ask to speak is any member of the public. So you're a member of the public. So let's go ahead and do that again. And why don't you say your name and address again? Sorry.
James Hackett, where the cameras, and see me.
You can just talk to me. Don't worry about it.
Well, he's done fine. And, I've talked to him, helped him out. Right? This is a little bit of a surprise that this action is occurring in the sense that my property taxes are sky high. This is not gonna assist in property value, right? And I know Mr. Baker is from California. He's been here for 5 years. He bought the house for his son to go to college. And, I've dealt with them. They're nice kids, except for the music they play. That's not an issue right now. That little heartbeat music that they play, it's like you're in a disco all the time.
Sir, you're only going to have 3 minutes, so you might want to
3
stick to the
minutes?
point. Yeah.
I only have 2 minutes left. Well, I want Mr. Baker to achieve his goals. That is not, while it is disturbing that we in a small housing tract that is left here in inner city is being taken over in a situation where ADUs are being placed in the backyard. This was California. My brother lived in a house that was in the backyard. It was something, but everybody in California ended up doing it. Then it's going to be next. And I don't know whether me objecting to Mr. Baker doing this is going to cost me, but I'm 64 years old. I have just, by the clock, 16 years left. Yeah, it's kind of, well, a couple of years, maybe. Okay, however it works out, my objection is, why do you need to do it? Of course, it's an investment opportunity. When I talked to Mr. Kolzak, he informed me there's like nothing you can do, but he had this one thing about the driveway. Okay. Sir Baker and I have not talked it over. When I saw him here 2 weeks ago, got his email address and then immediately lost it. All right, so I haven't been in contact with him about what his plan was. I don't know what his impact is going to be upon me, my property value. Man, if he could reduce my taxes, I sure would give it greater consideration. Now there's a driveway back there. You know the road car smell. What type of driveway is he putting in? Is it going to be asphalt? That stinks. It's going to be concrete. It costs more. Is there going to be something where Mr. Baker and I sit down, have beer, talk it over? When he was here last, it was, am I over 10 minutes?
You are over
Well,
your
I am the
time.
only one here to talk about it.
Is there anything else you'd like to sum
I
up
would,
with?
I
Very
would-
short.
I would, while I hope for Mr. Baker's investments, right, and even learn from them on that, Mr. Kozak told me that there's a housing shortage here, just down the street.
Okay, this is more than summarizing. So I'm gonna stop you there.
Wait, you had 2 buildings just put up. We have a problem on Boise Avenue with traffic.
Okay,
With traffic.
thank you, sir.
Okay, it is that.
Okay,
much.
you need to sit down now,
Do I get
sir.
another chance?
No, but we got your
Mr.
information.
Baker,
We
hey.
appreciate you.
Come get a
Thank
beer
you.
with me. We'll talk.
Okay.
The other thing is over. One of the things that I need to ask him for
Mr.
is some
Kowalczyk,
boundary
Would
with
you do
some
me a
trees.
favor and bring up a map that shows the area? I'm sorry, the individual parcels.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, and I'm sorry, I forgot to write down your name, but
James Hack.
James Hack, do you know where Mr. Hack lives?
He's on Juanita, which is the,
1615,
yeah.
today, just out of the-
I believe he's, forgive me if I'm wrong, but you're the backyard neighbor or adjacent? Okay.
Adjacent backyard, okay. Okay, thank you. All right. We've heard from the public. So is there anyone online? Okay. And we had no one on the sign-up sheet, and I don't see that anyone else has entered. Okay.
Does that give me more time?
No, sir, it does not.
I didn't get as much time as Mr. Bacon did.
That's just the way it works, sir. Okay, I would like to ask Mr. Baker a couple questions, I guess. Mr. Baker, you said that the option to park in back would require a variance. I'm not sure it does in the case of an ADU. That could be something you could talk to staff about. And it seems like there could be a possibility of parking back there or setting up some screening that wouldn't impact those living areas. And then your green area would be where your parking would have been in your preferred plan. So it seems to me like there's some opportunities there. I understand your concerns with parking. I think that it is going to be difficult for the community to transition to not having as much abundant parking, and people will choose to not have cars or choose to walk more. In a college area in particular, it doesn't seem unreasonable. But more important than that, you meet code, which is without the second driveway, you do meet the code requirements. So I'm going to I guess I don't have a question. I was just talking to you so that when you do your rebuttal, if you'd like to say something about those thoughts, you can. And with that, this is your opportunity to rebut any of the comments that have been made. And I think you have 10 minutes again. Is that correct? 5? You have 5 minutes. So the mic is yours, sir.
Yeah, addressing Mr. Hackett's, actually, he isn't directly abutting behind me. He's, off to the, or adjacent, I'm sorry, he's, to the right. So he's kind of catty corner to me. That happens to be the side that the planning department wants me to park. So instead of looking at lawn back there, which he's worried about, he's gonna be looking at parked cars. I do need a variance because I'm losing the 5-foot planter box that the city requires of abutting parcels. So to go in on the right side with the existing driveway, I will need a variance there. We will also, there won't be any turnaround in the back as it is in the proposed plan. So we will have to back those cars that are parked back there out into the street, which will cause pedestrian conflict, I'm sure. So as far as the code complying with one parking place, you know, it's great because it's cheaper that way, but it's not correct. And you're hoping by pushing your green that people will not own cars. And, you know, EVs are cars. So whether you're burning gas or you're plugging it in, it's a car and it needs to be parked. And parking on the street, as Mr. Kowalski brought up in the planning of this project, is unreasonable. It's unsafe. Crisway Drive is not a main thoroughfare. It's not an artery. Ada County Highway District has approved this driveway and given me their blessing. As the project is designed, I think, Mr. Hackett would be very, very happy to see it built that way versus the way the city, would like to have it built. So that being said, it's all I really have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. All right, I will now close the hearing and render a decision. No, sir.
Well.
No, sir.
I just want to tell.
No.
Mr. Baker, hey, let's talk. Let's
Okay.
work that.
That's enough.
If I
Thank
got
you.
back any dis-
Okay, for the record,
Talk to me. All right, let's figure out what is best for.
sir, I really need you to be quiet, sir.
Madam, there is only 95 ADUs. This
Sir,
year. There were
please.
45 last year. This one's now.
Sir?
my thing. If I could, I lost his address. Email.
Any recommendations?
So you need to comport yourself with the direction of the hearing examiner, or else you will be removed.
Mr. Baker, come on,
All right,
we finished that part out.
I am now going to make a decision. And I am going to deny the appeal based on the code cited, primarily the code cited by staff. I think there's abundant indications in the modern zoning code that they are looking for a single driveway, 30 feet in length. The circular driveways, which this kind of starts to mimic, are not allowed. So I think it's clear that the conditions as opposed by staff were appropriate, and I'm going to deny the appeal. And with the findings prepared by staff. Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
And I think with that,
work it out.
Mrs. Garlick would just adjourn. Is that correct? All right, so it is 5:31 and we are going to adjourn. Thank you.